So we produce things like hydrogen peroxide. I don't want that roaming around all over the place. I mean, that's going to, that has to be contained. And I feel like microplastics as a homology, something it's not the same. I know that, but it shares a certain logic about what it is. It's good for some things, but at the same time, it's a complete and utter toxin. So it's concentration, location, where it's happening, who it's happening to. It's context dependent as well. So we're just starting to get this stuff in resolution because frankly, and Blake brought this up, most of science up until about 10 years ago, maybe 15, was all about the linearity of X leads to Y. And now we have X, but there's every other letter in the alphabet that's also affecting X. And we're trying to establish what are the relationships that X has with those.
Yes. Well, I also think that we still segregate the disciplines far too much. Like Blake, you were saying you're a chemist and it's a different world for you. But at the same time, if you listen to somebody like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who talks about there would be no mass or identifiable object if the atoms didn't arrange themselves to have a shape or form. We wouldn't have air, we wouldn't have bricks, we wouldn't have soil, we wouldn't have computers, nothing. Atoms agree to shape and form with quantum energies, attractions, electromagnetics and things that allow it to stay in that shape and form, whether it's static or kinetic energy. Static energy tends to be the ones that are more solid objects, but like Dave, you were saying, we know that nature eventually degrades everything in existence, right? So
except for elements, so like you can't break it down further than an element unless you're gonna do.
If you go into quantum physics, though, yes, you technically can, which is where the Big Bang theory and all that comes out of, right? That you go back to nothingness and it comes back and forth and happens over and over in their theory, which mathematically that's where we're leading. But that same language also is the same reason, even with the elements, that we exist. It's just that we have all of those things constantly working, right? Constantly moving in order to be a living, moving thing, or even
it's so curious because when we talk about what natural means, like is nuclear fusion natural, and then the other part to me is like, okay, the Earth inhabits about 8 billion people, and that's only increasing. Is that natural? Like, like it might be natural, but it's not sustainable. And so you say, okay, maybe 200 years ago it was more manageable, it was more natural. But we say, hey, but human procreation is natural. So you say, well, it's part natural and part not. So we're dealing with the consequences of natural development in humans, and it's not so easy just to say, hey, everything natural is good because 8 billion people in the state we're in. Well, that seems to be trouble for me.
Well, yeah, it is, but it depends on which philosophy you're also hearing too as well. I mean, we know that humans are the dominant species and we are creating most of the destruction. And then if you listen to like Adam Smith economics series, then it's saying we're well over our population limits for the resources available. So, I think this is more of a planetary health concern, Dave. So if you want to chime in here.
Sure. And what you're really talking about, the definition of nature is well-established relationships of an ecosystem and a habitat.